Bear with me, guys, because I told Pastor that I'm wearing this shirt because I'm already sweating, and so you guys can't really tell. I also told Aunt that for me, I don't know why, but if it's easier for me to sing on Sundays than to talk. So bear with me. But tonight, I wanted to talk about what kind of influencer you are. Whether you like it or not, we are all influencers. And you can choose if you're going to be a godly influencer or not. I liked what, I think it was you that Tom said on Sunday, something about 85% or something like those, the statistics, 85% of people are influenced or something like that by...
85% of what happens to you is
from you.
15 is
From others. Well, in my life, personally, I feel like it's the other way around, but I'm learning how to reverse that. But anyways, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And like I said, it's up to you on what kind of influencer you are, a godly one or not. This past year, I have had what people call a midlife crisis, but like a light bulb went off in my brain. And what Google says is a midlife crisis is, the definition of a midlife crisis is a period of transition in life when a person begins to question the things that they have accomplished or achieved, whether those same things still provide a sense of fulfillment and meaning. This typically happens between the ages of 40 and 60. Mine happened at 30. And I feel like when people talk about midlife crisis, it's like a negative thing. Like they start thinking like, you know, like what is wrong with my life? But it was completely different for me. And the reason why I even say a midlife crisis is because I had like a transition in my life where what used to matter to me no longer mattered to me. And my whole perspective in life just changed, it shifted. So we're gonna talk about that. And like I said, the title is what kind of influencer you are, or what are you? Because everyone is an influencer, it just depends on what kind of influencer you are. So what triggered my midlife crisis? I'm not 100% sure what triggered it, but I know two things happened. One, I hit 30, and yesterday, or 2 days ago, I turned 31, but I hit 30, and that was like a big deal for me because I felt like I was now an adult. It hit differently for me than any other birthday. So I hit 30, and then also I became a new mom all over again. When I had Soraya, I was like 22, 23, and obviously I had my kids way far apart. They're like 7 years difference, or close to that. And so being a new mom all over again, I just felt, I'm like older now, and my perspective was different. Like when I had Soraya, I was a lot younger. I felt a lot younger, but it's just completely different than now. Being pregnant at 28 or 29, however how old I was a lot harder than when I was 22 or 23 also. So there's a lot of things that I feel like that helped transition or flip my mindset. So I'm going to kind of talk about what before having Leah and after having Leah. So before having Leah, I was huge on making and getting a career. Every job that I always had, I always strived at being the best. And Anthony can definitely attest to that. I've always tried to be the top producer, the one who hits the most goals, the most awards, being the best I can be, because I've always been like a go-getter. I've always been one who strives to become the best, be the best. Matter of fact, when I first met Anthony, we were 15? I want to say we were 15. And we were in math class, algebra. And it was geometry. And I did not do good in that class. And we had such a weird teacher. Whenever you got to an A in the class, she stopped your grade at an A, and you didn't have to do any work after that. Anthony was one of those people who got the A, and when they get the A in the class, she would announce it to everybody, and so-and-so got an A. Well, I was trying so hard to hit this A because I was one of those that wanted to get all A's in school, and I could not get this A. So I actually was very jealous of him and did not like him because he got the A and I couldn't. I struggled. And also, I'm one of those people who ask 1,000,001 questions. I'm that annoying person that you're like, be quiet, please, stop asking questions. But I am just so curious and full of questions, like I want to know why this happened. Because in my mind, the way I understand concepts is I have to understand how and why things happen. And so I was one of those people who asked 1,000,001 questions. But that's because I was such a go-getter, I feel like. And so with all my jobs, I've always been that way. I've always been the one who wants to hit the biggest rank, the biggest goal, be the best of the best. But after I had Aaliyah, things completely shifted my mind. I wanted to, instead of being like career-driven, I now want to be a stay-at-home mom. And in the past, I don't want to say I knocked stay-at-home moms, but I kind of did mentally because I didn't really see a success in being a stay-at-home mom. Like I said, when I hit 30 and I had Aaliyah, my whole perspective changed. My whole outlook changed. Obviously, now I wanted to be there, like, not that I didn't want to be involved in Soraya's life, like I've always wanted to be involved in Soraya's life, but I always felt like I could do both. I can be the mom and I can take care of her and I can raise her, but I can also be the one who is the career-driven woman who can provide and be the top of the top and go places in life. Also, when I was in school, it was very heavily pushed to go to college and to get an education. Matter of fact, I was in a program called AVID. I don't know if that's even still around. But it was like a program where it specifically helped students who wanted to go to college, like directed them in that way. And so I was always been like in that mentality, like I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna hit the best at work. But then, like I said, at 30, I had that total life switch change, and my mindset completely changed. And one thing that hit me hard is in the job that I have now, we had some new people come into work, and they were all over Zoom, right? Because I never really even met my coworkers in person. I did just recently because we had a function, and I was like, oh, I now have a face and a body connected to this name because I've never worked with them in person. Anyway, so we were doing this Zoom meeting where we're doing introductions, and to kind of like an icebreaker was if we didn't work or if we weren't doing what we were now doing, what job would you do? And it really made me think, like, what would I be doing if I wasn't working here? And that's also one thing that triggered, like, if I didn't have to work here, I would be a stay-at-home mom. And what does that mean to me? It means, like, Proverbs 31 is what I feel. That's what I feel like a stay-at-home mom, providing for the house, taking care of the house. Right now, I do a half job of that because I work full-time, too. Like, I work full-time, I'm taking care of the kids, at the same time, and then I try to make dinner here and there, take care of the house here and there, but it's a struggle. It's a true struggle, but I feel like God's gonna make it a way, and it's gonna happen. I'm gonna be a stay-at-home mom. It's already, with Anthony's new job that he's gonna get, it's gonna pave the way for this to happen for me. And so when Anthony's dream comes true, mine comes true. And I'm thankful. One thing is I'm thankful that Anthony sees the vision that I have, like with being a stay-at-home mom, and he agrees with it, because there are people out there that I know personally, like where their husbands would never let that happen. Like, no, you have to work too. Anthony's not that way, and I thank God for that. So those are the two things that I think shifted my mindset with where I personally want to be in life as a stay-at-home mom, and not necessarily career-driven. So right now, I know I am working an 8-to-5 job, but I see it as a season. Like, this is the season I'm in now. God's preparing me for my future. Like, whatever I'm doing now, I know that it's just preparing me for what's coming up next. But I just see it as a season. But like I said, but now all I want to be is I want to be that housewife, I want to be that stay-at-home mom, the one who cares for their house, raises their children, and ultimately that Proverbs 31 woman. And why this big change? Because now, to me, besides God and Anthony, my children have become the most important thing to me in my life. And I'm no longer all about me, myself, and my like my next advancement, my next career move. It's all about what can I be for my children and for my husband and for my family. They're the most important to me. So now we're going to transition to a little bit, I kind of want to give you guys a little background, okay? So here we are, now we're going to talk about my kids. So one thing too that helped me like change my whole perspective on my life and where I was going was my kids. Especially Soraya. They are little mini-me's of me. I sometimes feel bad for Anthony because he's in a house full of girls, clearly. And my girls are so much like me. They love makeup just like me. They love glitter, which poor Anthony, because that is his enemy, is glitter. He lets me get away with it on Christmas, though, because Christmas I go full glam. The house is full of glitter and shine, and I have the flowers that have glitter on it. I have the tree has glitter on it. Glitter's just everywhere. He lets me get away with it one time a year. But glitter, they're all girly. They truly are my little mini-me's. And I have started to notice now that Soraya is getting older that she's starting to pick up some of my good and my bad habits, which is scary. And so that is one reason why, too, I feel like I've had this shift because she's getting older. She's getting older, and I'm starting to see some things in her that are in me that I'm like, we don't want that. So I personally feel like I need to change because I have somebody who's basically looking up to me. So that was another another eye-opener for me. They say, who you hang around is who you will become. And it's so true. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 15:3, we're going to go there, 1 Corinthians 15:3, and I did mark all my pages, so I go straight there. And I am reading from the NLT version. It's an easy to understand version for me, y'all. Okay. So 1 Corinthians 15:33, y'all there? 15:33. Okay. If I 15:33. Maybe I didn't. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Oh, yeah, here we go. Don't be fooled by those who say such things, for bad company corrupts good character. I want to focus on the whole bad company corrupts good character. You can have such a good character, and you can be around somebody, and it can ruin your character. Let's turn to Proverbs 12:26. Okay. It says, the godly gives advice to their friends. The wicked lead them astray. I also have another version here that I wrote down. And it says, and this is the ESV standard, or English Standard Version. It's ESV. And it says, one who is righteous is a guide to his neighbor, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. Very close, very similar versions. Lastly, let's turn to Proverbs 22, verses 24 through 25. Okay. It says, don't befriend angry people or associate with hot-tempered people, or you will learn to be like them and endanger your soul. Right there. Don't befriend angry people or associate with hot-tempered people, or you will learn to be like them and endanger your soul. So who you hang around is who you'll become, is what I get from that, at least. Those three passages prove that you are influenced by who you are hanging around the most. Their habits become your habits. One huge reason why I pulled Soraya out of public school was not necessarily because of what was being taught, because we live in a smaller city, Anderson, and I feel like there's a lot of like-minded people like us. Before the school year starts, I was reach out to her teacher before I pulled her out of public school. And I would ask them, like, there's like 3 things I was like, do you teach this, this, and this? Like, when is this happening? Like the whole talking about genders and body parts. I'm like, we're not ready for that. Please let me know. If we're having this conversation, she will not be attending school. But they've always like, no, no, no. So I haven't really had an issue with her teachers, except there was one teacher that I did have an issue with. But that's besides the point. The biggest reason why I pulled Soraya out of public school was because she was getting influenced by the kids around her. She started picking up bad behaviors from the kids she was hanging with. They were teaching her how to manipulate, be bossy, and bully, and other things. And I was starting to pick up on this real quick. I'm going to kind of share a little bit, but Soraya had a bad habit of asking people for stuff. She started coming home with stuff. She started coming home with hair clips, with candy, different things. And we would ask her, like, where did you get this from? Oh, my friend gave it to me. Okay, well, she started coming home with a lot more things, right? And we're like, your friends are just coming, bringing you stuff? Like, here you go, Soraya, I brought this for you. She says, no, I've been asking them. And the way she's been asking them is she was like, I wish I could have one of those. Or she'll just simply ask them, can I have your toy or whatever? And they would give it to them. And Anthony and I were not big fans of that. We told her, you are not to ask anybody for any of their stuff. We just we don't like that. We don't want you to be begging people for their stuff and making people feel bad and manipulating them to take their stuff, right? So we told her that if she does that again, she was going to get in trouble. And with Soraya, she's one of those that, we don't have to spank her. We very rarely spank her because she's really like, if you can tell that we're angry with her, it's like, it's over with. It's done with. She's already like, I'm sad, sorry. So that's all we had to tell her is like, if you do that again, you're getting in trouble. Well, one day, she came home with a hand warmer. And we know that she'd been wanting a hand warmer because the kids at school had them. And she told us, Mom, can you buy us hand warmers? She's 2nd grade. I don't know why she needs a hand warmer. But they're like those things I guess you can buy from Costco that you pop them and they turn warm and you can put in your pockets at school. I don't know why these 2nd graders had these. But she wanted one, but we hadn't gotten her any. But she came home with one. And we asked her, Soraya, where did you get this hand warmer? And she told me, first thing out of her mouth, I didn't ask anybody for it. Okay, Soraya, where did you get this hand warmer from? And she tells us, well, her best friend had went to this other girl who had them and told her that if she didn't give Soraya one of them, that she could not be their friend and she could not hang out with them. And so this little girl gave Soraya her hand warmer. But in Soraya's eyes, she didn't ask for it, her friend did. And the way they did it was they said, you can't hang out with us and be our friend if you don't give me one. And Soraya said she didn't understand. She didn't understand like what was wrong with that because she didn't listen to me. She listened to me. She did not ask. I explained to her, you were being a bully. You were right there with her. You were bullying this little girl into giving something. You were manipulating her. And even though you didn't do it, you were there with your friend, like there while she was asking for it. So I had to explain that whole situation to her because it just didn't click in her head that what she did was wrong. So I explained it to her like, look, you don't do that. You don't act like that. And this girl was her best friend. And I'm like, oh my God, that's her best friend. For the longest time I was like, please don't hang out with her. Please don't hang out with her. But I ended up telling her, I made her make this little girl a bracelet. I'm that mom, yes. I made her make this little girl a bracelet and go to her the next day. I told her to give her that hand warmer back, even though it was no longer working. I told her, you need to give it back to her. So she gave her the hand warmer. She gave her a bracelet that she made, and she said, sorry. And I told her that she needed to tell her friend that what they did was not cool and never to do that again. But that's just a little story. That's like one of many that we would come home with. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would like want to pull my hair out every time that little girl would want to talk to Soraya on the phone or come hang out at our house or spend the night. I'm like, no. and they were best friends. I'm like, oh God, please pick a different friend. So I pulled her out of school because she was so easily influenced by this little girl and her behavior. And you know what, this little girl, I know that she was one of many children in her family, and I don't know if they were Christian, raised Christian or not, or what was going on with their home life. But I can't really necessarily put it on the child, the way that she was, because we don't know how her parents were raising her or not. But in my mind, I'm like, you're influencing my kid. You need to be out of her life. So I took Soraya out of school so that way she wouldn't be influenced and taught how to behave like that. So yeah, this was a big reason why I took her out, because she was being influenced by her peers. And all across the Bible, we see the power of influence. Throughout the Old Testament, we see God trying to protect the people of Israel from being influenced by others and worshiping false gods. One thing, Pastor had said this, I don't even know when he said this, maybe at the beginning of the year, I don't know, one message he said that really triggered something in me was most Christians, or a lot of Christians, have never read throughout the whole Bible. And that was me. I have never read the whole entire Bible, from cover to cover. I've always been one of those people, excuse me, I've always been one of those people who did a devotion here, or read this chapter here, or, went back here, this part, but I've never actually read from cover to cover. So this year, I decided to do that. And I'm not gonna lie, there's some parts where I was reading, like in Exodus, where I was like, oh, why is this in here? Why must I know all these names? And then two, because I'm so girly, I also don't like gory. And there are some parts in the beginning, in the Old Testament that are pretty gory. And all I picture in my head is these altars with blood on it and flies. Ugh. And I get grossed out. So I read it because I'm trying to read cover to cover, but like I said, there's some parts I'm like, wow. When I read those parts, I just thank God I don't live back then.
Amen.
Because I would be killing so many animals, and it just wouldn't be good. But one thing that is so cool to me is when I was a kid, I did have to go to church. Because my grandma pulled me to made me go to church. Me and my brother, we were forced to go to church. Thank God she forced us to. But one thing with me reading the Bible now from cover to cover is I'm learning now all these stories that I learned when I was a kid. I'm putting the pieces together, which is so cool. I'm seeing who was connected to who. This person was actually the great-grandfather of this person, which is one of the cool things to me. But one of the things, right now I'm in, what am I? I'm Judges, I think. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm in Samuel. I'm in Samuel. That's right. I'm learning about David, your favorite. And now, ever since you taught us that message, I had Tom come over one time to teach the young adults, and he taught about David. And now when I read that story, I'm like, yeah, David. And so, anyways, I'm reading about that right now. But one thing that is mind-blowing to me is the people of Israel, how many times God gave so many chances. And I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? Anyways, we're going to read part of that because it's just mind-blowing to me. God would be very specific with people of Israel and tell them, do not do this. And what do? They do the opposite of what God says. And we're going to look at a little bit of that. We're going to go to, where am I at my notes? Deuteronomy 20:17. And I'm going to kind of paint a little picture for you guys. Okay, so Deuteronomy 20:17. And before I even had this message put together, I actually highlighted this part in my Bible. Y'all can see right here, okay? I highlighted it in my Bible, and it says, you must completely destroy the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivitites, and Jebusites, just as the Lord your God has commanded you. This will prevent the people of the land from teaching you to imitate their detestable customs in the worship of their God, which are gods, which would cause you to sin deeply against the Lord your God. And the reason why I did highlight that when I was reading it through is because it popped out to me, because I was like, God wants us to be so, like, turned away from anything that's not of him that he wants us to cut it off. But I just thought I wanted to share that. But the reason why we're reading this is because God is literally telling them, you must completely destroy, and it's all these people, right? The Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, blah, 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 blah. This will prevent the people of the land from teaching you to imitate their detestable customs. So what that's meaning in my head is that imitate, that word right there, imitate, for me, like I think about in being influenced. So if we can even replace that word there. This will prevent the people of the land from teaching you to be influenced by their detestable customs in the worship of their gods, which would cause you to sin deeply against the Lord, your God. Well, like I said before, the Israelites did not listen. They did not completely destroy. And even before I started getting to Judges, when I read this part, and it's going through the story where they're going through the promise, they're getting to the promised land, and then they get to the promised land, and it's Moses, right? I think it's Moses.
Joshua leads them in, Moses brings them.
Yes, but but Moses, before he gets to the promised land, Moses tells them all of this stuff. Don't do this, like warns them before they get into the promised land. And then Joshua was the one who actually led them into the promised land. And Joshua is telling them like what God's telling them to do. Like, okay, when we hit this town, we're going to kill everybody. We're going to do this. Do not take anything from the land. Don't take no gold. Da, da, da. There's even a story in there where one guy took a piece of silver or something like that, and no one's going to know. And he hides it under his tent or something like that, but God knows. And he ended up killing God, like, long story short, we're jumping, but long story short, God ended up killing that guy and his whole family. Because he didn't listen, he didn't obey. But the main point right here is God's telling these people to destroy these people so that they don't imitate their detestable customs. We're going to jump to Judges 10, 6, 9. Chapter 10, verses 6 through 9. Okay, it says, again, the Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight. They served the images of Baal and Ashtoreth and the gods of Aram, Sidon, Moab, Ammon, and Philistia. They abandoned the Lord and no longer served him at all. So the Lord burned with anger against Israel, and he turned them over to the Philistines and Ammonites. Okay, we're going to pause right there. So I'm sorry, I should have told you guys to stay where we're at, but I'll just flip over for you guys. But part of this, it says here in Deuteronomy chapter 20, verses 17, it says, what are those people that God told him to destroy completely are now talked about in Judges. This means that they didn't listen to God, because if they listened to God, those people wouldn't be in Judges. And they're doing exactly what God told them would happen if they didn't destroy them completely. I skipped ahead because I got too... Okay, so we're going to read this again here. It says, so the Lord burned with anger against Israel, and he turned them over to the Philistines and Ammonites, who began to oppress them that year. For 18 years they oppressed all the Israelites east of the Jordan River in the land of Amorites, that is in Gilead. The Ammonites also crossed to the west side of Jordan and attacked Judah, Benjamin, and Ephraim. I just wanted to stress right there that the group of people that God told back in Deuteronomy to completely destroy, they didn't completely destroy, and God wanted them to completely destroy them because he didn't want them to imitate their detestable customs and worship their gods, happened in Judges because they didn't listen. And they did exactly what God said would happen, is they started serving images of Baal. So their gods, they started worshiping. They were influenced by these people to worship false gods. That's my point. Okay. We are going to turn to, one second. Okay, we're not turning to anywhere right now. I have my notes. Okay, so just as I was saying, who you hang around is who you will become. Or show me that's saying, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. The people we spend the most time with influence how we act on things and on the decisions we make in our daily habits. So, the more we spend time with God and seek Him, the more we will start to imitate Him and be like Him. Let's read Ephesians 5, 1 through 2. This is actually one of my favorite verses. Ephesians 5, 1 through 2. I've highlighted this. I've underlined it in pen. It's that good. Okay, it says, imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are His dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered Himself as sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. I'm going to read that one more time just because it's so good. Imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are His dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered Himself as a sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. We are supposed to imitate God. He is supposed to be our ultimate influencer. That's how I look at it, okay? He's supposed to be the one that we look up to. But as you start to spend more time with God, I'm seeing in my life personally, the more you start to reflect Him in your life, the more of Him radiates off of you.
Amen.
Does that make sense? Okay. In my notes, I put imitator equals mimic. We're supposed to mimic God, right? Mimic, be like Him, or look unto Him and be influenced by Him. Like I said in the beginning, we are all influencers, but it's up to you what kind of influencer you are. You never know who you're influencing. For example, I have some people in my life personally that they don't know that they actually have an impact on my life influencing. One of them, she is actually a coworker of mine that I've never met in person because, like I said, we all work from home and we're remote, right? I've only talked to her on the phone. I've seen her face in a little Zoom, but I've never met her in person. But the way she talks, the way she is, like in person, like I truly believe, I never asked her, but I truly believe she's probably a Christian because she just radiates that to me, right? But she's one of those people who gets all her work done, and with my job, that is like, whoa, because we can never finish our work. It's one of those jobs that just keeps giving you stuff, and if you get close, like we need to give you more stuff to do, right? It's one of those things, but she's always one that gets it done. And so one day I asked her, I said, what do you do in the morning? I asked her, I was like, how do you get yourself prepared? Like, what is your routine? What do you do? And she told me that she gets up, which have not got this far yet in life, but we start work at 8 o'clock, right? She gets up at 5:30 in the morning. She gets herself ready. She sometimes goes grocery store shopping before work, like, whoa. Like, I don't know. You're crazy. Wow. I did that once this year, and I was like, I felt accomplished, I'm not gonna lie. But I asked her, like, what, and she told me that she gets herself ready for the day as if she was actually going to work. And because it gets her mindset ready to work. And like, just that little conversation I had with her was like light bulb went off in my head. Me personally, I am one of the people who like to wake up 5 minutes before the alarm or before my work starts. Like 7:55, I'm up in pajamas on the computer doing work all day. That is me. And, but I felt like I was literally waking up, working, getting off, doing, the motherly chores, going around the house, cook dinner, get ready for bed, then do the whole routine all over again. And I just felt like I was working all the time, which is what I was actually doing. So I decided I was changing things. I was not going to do that anymore. I was going to wake up at 6:30 in the morning when I start work at 8, right? I mean, that's like, I know for some people that's still late, but for me that's like really early. And I've been getting ready, like taking a shower, getting dressed, working out, which
Go girl.
I know. It's not every day, but it's like 3 times a week.
Hey, that's good.
Yes, and one thing that influenced me too is your story about your wife, because I'm not working out to lose weight. I'm working out to move my body because I sit down all day and I work all day. And the most workout I get throughout the day is, like walk around the house when I need to go get food or something or cook. And I am so not one who likes to work out. That is like, Anthony can totally test this. Like, I hate working out. And going on hikes, like him and I are opposite with that. Like, he's the gym person, like Pastor was saying. Him and Pastor sometimes, like, I'm like, oh my God, they're too much alike. It's like their favorite things is eggs. Anthony eats eggs, so much eggs. And they're supposed to be the orange eggs and, whatever. Anyways, but Anthony, works out every day, or if he's not working out, he's doing some kind of leg stretch things that he's been doing, or he's doing boxing, or he's doing his jiu-jitsu. Me, I'm like, I'll eat the hamburger and I will watch you. But that isn't me because I hate working out. But I decided I'm going to do it. I decided to add this to my weekly routine because I'm not doing it every day quite yet. But I decided to do this. But little does this lady know, her little conversation with me influenced me to change my habits that I've had for the last 2 years. The last 2 years, I've been that person who wakes up 5 minutes before work and hops on the computer and works. And sadly, Ron seen me in my pajamas one time because actually a few times, and he's probably thinking like, did you work today? Because he comes by and picks up Soraya or whatever, and I'm like, open the door like, hello, all my glory, come take my kid, because Soraya wants to hang out with him, and I'm just in pajamas and my hair looks whatever. But like I said, little does this lady know that she just like completely changed my whole morning routine. And she doesn't even know. She doesn't know that she influenced me. That's just one example. There's another girl who, she used to come to this church, but she moved. But I observed her and her habits, and I loved how she dealt with time. I watched her, because one time she met with me. She's like, hey, I want to go hang out. And I was like, okay, I'll go hang out with you. But she was so organized with her time that I was amazed by it, because all my life, I have never been organized with my time. And don't get me wrong, like, I am still terrible at time. Terrible. I'm the queen of late. It's sad, but I am. But it's always been a thing. It's the Lappinson. That's my maiden name is Lappinson. It's the Lappinson thing, is to be late. I'm working on it. But my thing with her is I was so amazed on how time, everything, she had slots for everything, and it was so organized. And my days, personally, as a mom, I have a million and one things to do. I feel like if I was to put times and frames in my life, I would not feel so stressed out. So for her, she doesn't even know she influenced me, but she did. She influenced me. I watched her, and she influenced me. So my point of all of that is you never know who's watching you. You don't know who you're influencing, who you're impacting, the little things that you're doing that's making a big deal in people's life. And if you're an influencer, which we all are, whether we like it or not, because we have eyeballs on us all the time, and it's not just in person, but now it's on social media, right? What are you radiating? Who are you radiating? Are you a person who, I put in here, are you one of those Christians who is a lukewarm Christian? Is that what you're showing, what a Christian is supposed to be? Is that who you're influencing people to be like? Do they see you as a Christian who is there on Sunday and worshiping God on Sunday, but throughout the week you just can care less and you just get your fix on Sunday? Or are you the Christian that God wants you to be? Because you never know who's watching. You don't know who you're influencing in your life. Who are you reflecting? Do you give off that sold out for God, God-fearing Christian smell? Or do you give out that worldly, half-hearted, lukewarm, compromised Christian smell? This is what I put in my notes. I put, think about those around you, those closest to you, your children, your spouse, your neighbors, your friends. Are you being a godly influence to them? Are you sharing God's love with them? Or do you see a double-minded man, one who says they are Christian, like I said, goes to church and then acts opposite way outside of church? I know this message here personally hit me, came home for me more than ever, as I've started to see that it personally influence my life is my children. My children, I see how much of an influence I have on them. And for me, personally, they're the biggest people that I care about being an influencer too, because I want them to grow up loving God. I want them to grow up serving God. I don't want them to grow up not knowing God or half-hearted. Like, they are looking up to me. And for me personally, I know as a kid how much of an influence your parents have on their children, right? For me, I'm gonna open up my closet door for y'all. But for me personally, changing these things that I've changed this year, it's very little in some people's eyes, but for me it's huge, because it doesn't come easy to me. The whole getting up early, everyone knows, well, my family all knows, I am not a morning person. Do not come to me in the morning and be like, good morning. And my family, when I was growing up, they were the opera singers, good morning, it's morning time. And I'm like, shut up, I don't want to hear, do not talk to me right now, leave me alone. And I just never been that morning person. So it's been a struggle getting up at 6:30 in the morning, but I've been doing it, but it has not been easy. But because I know how much of an influence I have on my children alone, I've decided to change some things in my life. Let me see here. I think I skipped part of my notes. Let's see. Okay, I am trying to mold myself into becoming that Proverbs 31 woman. And what does that look like to me? A woman who is faithful to God, to Jesus, faithful to her husband, one who cares after her home and her affairs, one who prays over her children and her home. The list goes on. When you read Proverbs 31, there's a multitude of beautiful gems in there that you can just take and just change your life with. But for me, like I said, changing these things and becoming that influencer that I want to be for my children does not come easy. Does not come easy to me. And I knew my message. When Pastor came to me and asked me if I would teach. Instantly my mind went, what am I going to teach about? And God, help me know what I'm going to teach about. And actually, it was when Pastor Don Pritchard was here, and he had said something. And I can't tell you guys what it is. I can't tell you. But it was one of those, he had said something, and it was completely nothing to do with it. Well, it was obviously something to do with his message, but it wasn't the main point of his message. But it made me think about what I was going to teach about, which is what kind of influencer you are. Because I think he said something about it's not only about you, but it's your impact on others. And it triggered something in my head, and I was like, that's what I've been dealing with since I turned 30 and having Aaliyah. I've been having this big change in my life and what it was about, right? So for me, all these life changes that I've been doing because I want to be that influence for my children has not been easy for me. One thing that I'm trying to do as well this year is declutter my house, because I grew up, I hope none of my family watches this, but I grew up in, I would say, a hoarder's house. Okay, my grandma, she grew up in Thailand, and since the age of 5 years old, she had to work. It was just her and her mom, and she had to work. She didn't go to school. She just worked and worked and worked. And then she obviously got married to my grandpa, who was in the military. She came over here, and I don't know what it was, but I'm thinking it's because she grew up poor that she became in love with clothes. And when I'm talking about clothes, her whole living room clothes against the wall. She has boxes. If you go in her hallway, when you're walking down her hallway, there's boxes of clothes. In her kitchen, there's clothes. And I'm not just clothes, I'm talking about bras and stuff. There's just clothes everywhere in her house. And you got to walk in the pathway to get around, okay? So that's how my mom grew up, right? She grew up in a household like that. So my mom is a little step up from that. The way I grew up was our house was cleaned when people were coming over. And what do I mean by cleaned is everything was thrown into the closet, everything was thrown into the TV stands just so that it appeared clean. But I'm telling you, you can open up the TV stand and find a pan or a wrench right next to it, because that's how we cleaned back then. So that's how I grew up. I grew up, and that was clean to us. And when Anthony met me, I don't even know how he stuck around, but when he met me, my bedroom, I was 15, 16, and my bedroom, on my bed, I had so much clothes and so much stuff in my room that when I would go to bed at night, I would have to push my clothes over so that way I could have a little spot to lay down on my bed. There you go, because that's how I grew up, right? When you said that, the statistics about the 15%, 85%, I was thinking like, I think it's the other way around, because well, because for me, I was so heavily influenced by how I was raised, like it just trickled down to me. Until I met Anthony and his mom. His family, complete opposite of mine. My family is, oh, wake up in the morning, we're all loud, that's why I'm like the way I am. But Anthony's family, I thought his sister hated me when I met her, because she was so quiet. His mom, so quiet. It was like, I was one of those people who like try to like tug and be like, how was your day? You know, small talk, and be like, oh, fine. Okay, are we going to elaborate? That's why when you talk to Anthony, sometimes you probably get those short answers. It's not because he doesn't like you. It's not because that's just how his family was, like very to the point, quiet people. He's very introverted. I'm the extrovert in the family, right? So we're complete opposites. His mom, my household, growing up, when my mom made dinner, she's like, dinner's ready. And I was one of five. I have 4 brothers. And my mom would be like, dinner's ready, and we can eat whenever we wanted. We can eat 10 o'clock at night, we can eat right there and then. We never ate together. We never ate together as a family, only on Christmas and Thanksgiving. You know, everyone sat down on the table and, you know, ate together. But that's not a normal thing for us. We're, I guess, like a very different kind of family, I come to find out. But then I met Anthony, and I go to his house, right? 5 o'clock, mom has dinner ready. And, you know, everyone's sitting down together eating dinner. I was like, this is different. So we're going to eat dinner together. And then his mom, after dinner was done and everyone ate, she cleaned the kitchen. And to me, that was like, what are you doing? Because in my household, we didn't clean kitchens. I mean, the dishes did get cleaned, but we didn't I'm talking about when she cleaned the kitchen, she would mop the floors, clean the stove, you know, do all the dishes. Like, you would go in there and you wouldn't even know dinner was made. Like, we had dinner because she had clean kitchen like that. And I'd never seen that before because, like I said, in my family, it's not a thing. And it was not a thing. And so it was completely different to me. And then on weekends for them, every Saturday, everyone had a chore and everyone cleaned, you know, the bathroom or this and that. And for us, that was not a thing. Complete opposite. Like I said, we cleaned the house when people were coming over, and like I said, when we cleaned, it was like, hide everything, you know. No one's gonna open the entertainment center. But that was how I grew up. So when I decided that I was gonna change some things up, it has been a struggle, but I have been doing it, right? And thank God for Anthony, because like I said, he is complete opposite of me. He's the reason why my house remains clean, because he is one of those, he picked up his mom's habits. He's been heavily influenced by his mom, and he will clean the kitchen. He's one of those guys who cleans, mops, laundry, does all the things, thank goodness. But I have decided this year I am going to contribute more, and I have decided to change because, like I said, I had that moment in my life where I wanted to be influenced to my children. I wanted my children to see how God would want me to be as a wife. So it's been a struggle, but I have started to contribute more with cleaning, which is not my thing, clearly. I just paint a picture for you guys so you guys can see why it's not a thing, okay? Just didn't grow up that way. But So now we do have a chore list at my house for me and Anthony, so it's not so much, I know that probably sounds very like kiddish, but it works for us. Certain days I do dishes, certain day he does dishes and stuff like that, so it works for us. But my whole point of sharing this all with y'all is because I wanted to show you guys the importance of taking your influential position in life and seeing how much of an impact you can have around the people around you. And like I said, you may not want to be an influencer, but you are one. Amen. And for me, like I said, the biggest people I want to influence is my children. And I want them to see, like I said, I want them to see my mom cooks, my mom cleans, my mom takes care of the house, just like the Bible says in Proverbs 31. And so that's why I've intentionally tried to change that. And plus, I also want to break those, I don't want to call them generational curses, but I want to break off that lineage in my life of hoarding and of not cleaning and not waking up early and getting ready for the day. And besides that, one thing that totally changed me is homeschooling my daughter. I told her that when I was going to homeschool her, that she was not going to get out of bed and just hop on the computer and do her homeschool stuff and just, not get ready for the day. No. I told her she was going to get up, like if she was going to school, and she was going to take a shower, and she could start at nighttime, but she was going to get ready, like put her clothes, and she was going to brush her teeth, eat breakfast, get ready for the day before. And I told myself, if I'm telling her to do that, I better be doing it too. So I've been doing that, changing my last 2 years, my routine for the last 2 years to this because I wanted to be a better influence on her and get ready for the day and take care of my family and do things like that. Let's see here. Like I said, these are no easy things for me, but I wanted to encourage you guys to reflect on your life and think about your relationship with God, that it's not only for you. You got to think about it too, as it's for other people too, because sometimes, I know you all heard this, but in some people's lives around you, you're the only Jesus they will see. Because I think Pastor said that there was a gentleman here who it was his first time ever being in church. I've had friends like that too, where they didn't grow up in church. They've never, their parents were not, religious or whatever. And so all they knew about Jesus was what I was sharing and radiating off of me. And so, like I said, I wanted you guys to think about that. Think about it, about your relationship with God. If you take anything away from this message, is one, God should be our biggest influencer in our life. We should be imitating him. And once we start spending more time with him and growing a relationship with him, the more we will become like him, because like it said, like we read those 3 verses, basically, we are I keep saying heavenly, but heavily influenced by the people around us. Well, if we spend more time with God, we'll be more like God. That's how I think about it. So do that, and then once you start doing that, you will be more like him, and the people that are around you, even if you know it or not, will be influenced by the way you're living, by the way you're talking, and you can impact people that way. Right. And you don't have to be on the side, on the corner, holding up signs, Jesus loves you. You show it off of your life. You show it off of who you are and how you live. So I encourage y'all just to think about what kind of smell, aroma are you giving off in people's lives? And that's all I have for y'all.
Amen. Thank you.
I guess we can all stand up and do our statement. Yeah. I'm a child of God through Jesus Christ.